Let's turn some lights on. Okay, I don't know why I did this. For some reason, I was thinking I was going to be making Creole rice. I'm not. I'm going to be making jambalaya. All right, so let's get all of this. Let me get all this nonsense out of the way here. Put this away. All right. All right, so we got our mise en place right here. Got some homemade tasso, some of that smoked sausage, and some shrimp as well. Here, can you mute that? Or just mute it. There. Perfect. Thank you, sweetheart. I don't know where I want to put it. I don't want to put it there, I can tell you that. Sure, that works. All right, there we go. Well, that's fine right there. Yeah, okay. Or do I want to, here, actually I want to do the opposite. I want to move all of this over here. And then put this over there. I'm changing my mind. There we go. That's better. All right, so first things first, I got this nice cast iron porcelain glazed pot that I use for this. It does a really good job of keeping everything nice and insulated, does a good job of sauteing and everything like that. Excuse me. We got our mise. I'm turning this on to medium. It's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to heat up. While that heats up, I'm going to cut the onions, poblano and garlic. Typically with a jambalaya, you do what's called a trinity, which is peppers, onions, and celery. I personally don't like the taste of celery in trinity, and I also don't like the taste of green peppers. So instead of all of that, oh, hang on, you can see this boom here. Let me just bring that up just a touch. All right, so instead of all of that, I use poblanos, which I think have a lot more flavor, and onion, and then, of course, garlic, which technically is not a part of the trinity whatsoever. But, hang on, sorry, you're just seeing this thing. All right, so we're going to dice all this while this heats up. You do want to always make sure you have fat in these, so that's what they say. I don't know what that does otherwise. Maybe it messes up the porcelain. But so I'm using some clarified butter here. You could use just regular butter if you wanted. The problem with the regular butter is it might burn. This won't. So washing vegetables as we always do. You never know where they were or who touched it. It's always a good idea to wash your veggies. Now, poblanos, while they're not super spicy, they do have some spice to them, so you want to make sure you don't rub your eyes after working with them. Or you could even just wear gloves, you know, whatever you feel so inclined with. So I like to cut poblanos in thirds. I take one side down the side like that, and then I take another side here. Then I just like to cut out kind of the top like that, and then that rib right there. Done. Now we're going to dice these. So just a nice little dice here. I worked with a chef, one of my first jobs. He definitely put it into me that regular green peppers don't taste great. Before then, I'd never really thought about it. But once I worked with him, you know, I have to admit, like I took a step back and was like, yeah, you're right. Green bell peppers do kind of suck. Like they're not. There's no real flavor. They're kind of sweet, but they just taste green. Like there's no depth to them. So while I get that it's a cheap and easy vegetable, and you know that's why a lot of these cultures use it, you know, frankly, it doesn't really do much for the food if you ask me. And I think a poblano, one, we're already making what I would consider a spicy dish, but it also just adds a whole bunch of depth. Like they're just more, I don't know, they're less shallow. if you would. Think of peppers as people. They're definitely like the more interesting. Like a poblano, you'd be like, oh, you're in a band? That's pretty cool. Like that's a poblano. Whereas like a green pepper is like, yeah, I'm I do accounting and well, what do you do on the weekends? Watch Netflix. Well, that's cool and all. I mean, I watch Netflix too, and there's nothing wrong with accounting, but definitely not as cool as being in a band. So, at least that's my opinion on peppers. All right, we're gonna dice this onion. I'm just gonna do. I'm gonna do what I call the Mexican cut here. I learned the reason I call it the Mexican cut is not because it's racist, is because I learned it from the Mexicans of Chicago. It's a really quick dice if you've never done it. It basically works with the way that an onion grows, which, as you can see, it kind of grows in layers, right? Like as a half moon or an arc. So what it does is instead of cutting it the French way, what they do is they take it like this, and then basically they use the bend of the knife here to not cut all the way through the bottom. So you kind of cut down, and then that's about it. You don't cut it off. So it's like that, right? So just do that, and then a little bit back, and then you end up getting this right there. So you basically get cut all the way through, and then you just do that all the way down. So down, slightly back, down, slightly back, down, slightly back, and you see how deep I'm cutting it too, like almost all the way, but not quite. Down, slightly back, down, slightly back, and then we kind of cut it at an angle. We go like boom, 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 boom. So like such. Turn it, and then for the last bit, we just cut it straight down. And you get these beautiful diced onion. Perfect. Quick and easy, faster than any other way. And it's safe, and you don't have to worry about it, and you can cut a 50-pound bag in 20 minutes. Or less. I don't know how fast. I've never timed myself. So, see how fast this goes? I'm telling you, you work in catering with some folks who maybe aren't necessarily trained professionally, and they'll show you stuff like this. You know, they're looking to get the job done and go on to their second of 3 jobs. You know, they're not looking to make sure they have a perfect dice for something that doesn't need it. Oh yeah, you're doing schooling? Well, hey, watch this. Maybe you can learn how to make some food for some folks. Get you know, this is a really good recipe here. I don't know what you're doing for college, but you know, I mean, I guess I had a good time in college because I was actually in culinary school. It was hard, man. I'll tell you what. 10, 12-hour days, 5 days a week. It was a lot. But it was fun. We did a lot of unwinding, if you want to call it that. Oh, biology. Yeah, that's hard, man. The most I know about biology is basically Zymergy, and I could tell you that I definitely do not know a ton about that. I just basically know how yeast ferments beer, and that's about it. Oof, finals. That sucks. My wife has a BS, and she definitely has told me about how awful that stuff is. See, our finals week was you had to cook something and write a paper, and then you would get absolutely shithoused. And, you know, that was about it. I also had to get screamed at by chefs all day. So, I mean, it was a little bit different. But definitely not like, definitely nowhere near that. All right, so one of the things you want to do, so we have what I would call the Trinity. And I'm just going to mix it up a little bit so it's a little bit more evenly distributed. Because what we're going to do, one of the keys to Cajun cooking, oops, I did not print off my recipe either. So I am 100% doing this by heart, which I shouldn't have done. I always print off a recipe. Shoot. You know what? I'm going to do that real quick. Because I thought I had this memorized, and I 100% don't. So let me print off this recipe here. I'll be right back. How do I do this? Send a copy to the printer. Yes. I'm just going to print the whole thing. That way I don't have to worry about it. Man, tell you what, this thing didn't even work right. Let's see, make sure that printer's going to work. Sorry for the delay. Oh, there it goes. I prepped everything else. I prepped all the food and stuff, and the one thing I didn't do was print off the recipe. All right, we got it now. Let me get the camera working again. So to be fair, it's missing a page. That doesn't matter. I got the page I need. So to be fair, I did steal this recipe from Paul Prudhoe. But I mean, if you're gonna steal a Cajun recipe from anybody, you definitely steal it from Paul Prudhoe. I mean, the guy's he's the godfather of this stuff. So I did change it significantly, so it's not really too much thievery. I don't even need that, but thank you. So here we go. All right. Really, I just need to know the quantities here. Okay. So yeah, so we got our Trinity here. This is good and hot now. We got our butter. So the reason why I'm mixing this is we're gonna add these in thirds. The first bit, we're gonna caramelize it basically. We're gonna cook it nice and slow. By layering those flavors like that, we're really able to get some depth in the food. So just like with so much soul food, it's all about depth of food and layers and cooking. So we add this here. We're gonna get it until it's like nice and cooked down. We're gonna add a little bit of salt to bring out the moisture. Just a touch, not a lot. We wanna make sure we don't over-season because we have our homemade Cajun seasoning here that's going to do a lot of the seasoning, and we wanna make sure that we don't over-season it, but still have enough spice. So this is doing its thing. While that's doing that, we're gonna cut our andouille, which is, we're gonna use 1 pound of andouille, which this isn't really andouille. It's just smoked sausage, but we don't get good andouille down here, so it's what we're gonna use. And this is some pretty good stuff. It's called Black Forest sausage. It's solid. Again, not what I would prefer. You like it in rounds, right, sweetheart? Like rounds of the andouille? Okay. Okay, we're gonna do it in rounds. It's nice and easy. So we're just gonna cut them like this. So you get like a nice big chunk of sausage when you eat it. And I know my microphone doesn't really sync up with the video. I'm sorry about that, but it is what it is. Maybe one day I'll be able to fix it. So these nice big chunks of andouille. Then we'll have it's like a little treasure hunt as you eat it. It's fantastic. I love this sausage, by the way. Ooh, oh, I just lost a piece. Don't worry. My dog is more than happy to make sure he gets it cleaned up. He is over the moon for it. All right, so we got that going. This is starting to come out a bit. We're gonna let it cook a bit more. I'm gonna turn it up just a hair. We're gonna get this, I'm just gonna leave this here because I don't want to dirty another container that I don't need to. What else do I need to do? This is a pretty easy recipe, honestly. We're gonna have to cut the tasso, which I guess I should really do with the andouille, right? All right, we're gonna cut the tasso. So this is my homemade tasso. It's the first time I ever did it. It's just a basic tasso recipe. I use it from Charcuterie by Michael Ruhlman. It's a great recipe. Slow smoked. I think it took about 2 hours. Basically cook it until it's like 150, 160. I don't remember. About 200 degrees. And yeah, I mean, you can't beat it. Also, another thing, basically impossible to find. You have to cure it a bit. I think you have to cure it for at least a couple hours, if not overnight. But I mean, here, look at this thing. I'm just gonna cut it in half for you, and so you can see. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my God. It's so good. I'm telling you. Homemade tasso ham. Oh shit. Dude. Hey Daddy, you want me to cut up that sausage? You best come over here. No, I don't know who that is. All right, so I'm just gonna dice this up. Just like that. All right, this is basically ready to get the meat. So is Rat King over here, or whatever your name is. Oh, Rat Gang, my bad. All right. Yeah, we're just, it's soul food, so like your cuts don't have to be perfect. It's fine. You don't just get it to the size you need it. All right, so now we're gonna add all this. We're just gonna get it until it starts to brown a little bit. Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned, I turned the oven on because we're gonna finish it in there. 350 for a regular conventional oven. Wash my knife. Wash this off. No raw food not on here, but just get it rinsed off at least. I'm gonna turn this up just a hair more. Hardest part about this is patience. Just gotta wait. Let the heat and all the stuff do its business. So while that does that, we're gonna basically we have some homemade tomato sauce here. This is just my basic marinara. You could use a basic marinara, or you could just use a canned tomato sauce, whatever. You could also just use whole fresh tomatoes. It's fine, whatever you want. I mean, the recipe originally called for fresh tomatoes. I make this and can a whole bunch of it because we have hurricanes and stuff down here. So I want to make sure I have plenty of hurricane prep. So I usually do like basically 20 of these at a time. And this stuff's super good. It's all about the quality of tomatoes that you use. So I try to use it in as many dishes as I can, and this is one of them. It does have some fennel and basil in it, which is fine because Cajun food actually uses basil in its spice mixes a lot of time. The fennel, not so much, but it's just pretty subtle. And really, there's like, here, I mean, just take a look. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, what's on my finger? Some tasso. There's like, what did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different spices in here. So it kind of just blends in with it. We got salt, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, white pepper, cayenne, thyme, basil, and oregano. And this is a trick I use for, I mean, you can't read this. I'm going to have to redo this label, but this is a trick that I always used professionally. Is whenever we had spice mixes, instead of putting it on a recipe like this, I would always put tape on the container and just write the recipe here. So you don't have to look up what the recipe is. You just put everything in here and then you shake it up and there's your spice mix. It's really easy. And I do that with every spice mix. I have like 20 different spice mixes. All right, it's getting there, but it's gonna need time. That's the hard part with it all. While that does that, I'm gonna get the shrimp cut up. Dump that out. I'm just gonna strain the shrimp. It always is, whenever you buy frozen shrimp, it's always full of water. So I don't want to dump a whole bunch of shrimp water on my cutting board. Oh, this is nice shrimp. Yeah, this is some high quality stuff. That's good. It's pretty. I'm pretty impressed. I think I got that at Aldi's or something. Yeah, that's some good shrimp for a discount market. So yeah, they call it Gulf shrimp, which is probably why it looks a little pink. So the way that I like to, there's a couple of different ways you can cut the shrimp. What I just did, Honestly, I don't think I want to do. I think I kind of want to leave these a bit more whole. But when I'm chopping them up for something, yeah, I'm barefoot in the kitchen, 100%. It's my kitchen. What I like to do is I like to cut these top parts off and then cut the middle down the center, so like this. So that's how I like to dice shrimp, the little quarters like that. However, for this recipe, I'm just gonna slice it down the center. That was a bad shrimp to show that. So then we just get these little half moons here. Can't really see that, but whatever. That's what we're gonna do. You could leave them whole. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. I just want more shrimp in every bite, so that's why I'm gonna process them just a little bit. All right, this guy's getting there. Oh yeah, we're getting some browning here. So hey, this is where the magic comes. So let me try and bring it over to you. I don't really want to move the camera. So where the magic comes in is when we start to get this awesome browning here. And, oh, it's heavy as shit. But you can see that on the bottom. You might be worried that it's starting to burn. Oh, that's heavy. Shit. But it's not. That's where a ton of the flavor comes in. That's where we're getting that Maillard reaction. That's where like those proteins and stuff start to cook. Starts to give us that browning. It really brings out the umami and all that. That's the magic. So we're gonna let that continue. We're gonna get it a bit more until it's almost too far, and then we're gonna add more veggies, and we're gonna add some seasoning at that point. That's when we're gonna add the Cajun seasoning. And it's really gonna start going good. All right, just finish up the shrimp here. I guess I don't even really need to cut this. I gotta be honest. I don't know. See, now I'm second guessing myself. I don't even know if I want the shrimp cut. We're already this deep in. It doesn't really matter. Just have to make sure you don't overcook it. So, I mean, we're going to add the shrimp at the very, very end, you know. We're definitely not going to cook it while the rice cooks. We're going to stir it in. Well, I guess, actually, that's not true. That's not true. We are going to add it right before we put it in the oven. So, it'll be all right, though. If it's nice and thin like this, it'll actually shouldn't get too chewy. Might actually cook a bit more. Oh, yeah, nah, there you go, Daddy. That's what I want. Okay, so now we're going to add the next third of veggies. Just like that. And this time, we're going to add the Cajun spice. Okay, this is my homemade one. I'll post the recipe on the highlight or whatever I am able to figure out what to do. I don't know, maybe YouTube. But it's just a basic Cajun spice. You can figure it out. Or you can even just buy Paul Perdeaux's Cajun spice mix. You know, you don't have to get crazy with it. I make it myself because I have that many spices. So why not? All right, so we're gonna do that here for a minute. We're gonna let that cook until it just starts to tenderize, or excuse me. What am I trying to say? We're just gonna cook it for a few minutes. And then we're gonna deglaze with our tomato sauce here. As I mentioned, homemade, but you use whatever you want. You could just use regular tomatoes. Regular tomatoes will also deglaze it. They have so much moisture in them. That's fine. Over under, who's hoping that I cut my hand? Would you feel better if I put sandals on? Would that make everybody feel more comfortable? Or if I put on big floppy slippers? Yeah, free feet. Yeah, we'll start a new hashtag, free feet. Slippers are play of the game. Love it. How about I just don't walk in the frame so you can see my feet anymore? Oh, shoot. This is a little cockeyed. Let me fix that. Okay. So now we're going to deglaze. Let me wash my hand real quick. All right. So now we're going to deglaze with our tomato sauce. And then we're going to cook this down just a touch. So about 2 cups. Typically I wouldn't measure stuff like this, but because we're using rice and I need to make sure we have the right amount of liquid, that's actually quite important. So now we're deglazing. Oopsies. We're going to add a touch more Cajun seasoning here. And we're going to cook this down until it's just a bit thicker. We don't want to cook it down too much. We do want to get that brown off the bottom a little bit. So I'm just kind of scraping the pot here. I want to get it cooked. I don't want to get it burnt. I also turn down the heat just a touch to make sure that I don't burn anything. So rice to liquid, it really depends on what you're doing. A good metric is 1 to 2 rice to liquid, but I find that typically overcooks the rice. I usually go for every cup of rice, and it's diminishing returns, honestly. Usually about 1 to 1 3/4, so 1 cup of rice to 1 3/4 water. The best thing to do, if you can, get a rice cooker. They have here. I'm actually not going to use a rice cooker, but they have these lines in here. You can kind of see. And basically what you do is they come with these little cups. I don't have one handy. But they come with these little cups, and they're not full cups. They're like 3/4 cups. And you put, like, let's say we put 3 cups in. After I'm done washing the rice, which you always have to do, you always have to wash your rice. I usually wash it about 4 times. If I wash, I mean, you fill it with water, you stir it around, you dump off the water. You do that about 4 times until the water's somewhat clear. So if we were to do 3 cups of rice, you'd put it in here, and then you would fill the water to that line there that has the 3. That's a really good way to do it. If you've learned like the way my wife learned from her family, and the way that she's taught me, is you actually do this thing where you use your finger. So it's the best way to do it, because you can do it whether it's in a rice cooker, in a pot, and whatever. And typically what you do is you just fill however much rice you want about, for me, it's right there. It's right at that cuticle. So it's about maybe, I don't know, what is that, like a ½ centimeter of water above it. So you just put your finger in till you touch the rice, and the water should just go about that high. And if you do that, again, no matter how much rice you're cooking, you're going to get perfect rice every time. You just kind of have to play with it. All right, so our tomato sauce has changed color. It's gotten a bit dark. It's reduced a bit. We're ready for the next step. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some chicken stock. I need 2½ cups of chicken stock. Now, what we do here in this house is we make our own chicken reduction. So I make a chicken stock, and then I reduce it by about 10 times. Basically, it creates a very thick glaze. And then what you can do is you can use it for sauces, or you basically just use it like a bouillon. So that's what we're going to do now, is I'm basically just going to use this like a bouillon. So I'm going to add a little bit to this container that has, it's about a quart container. So I'm just going to add some, right about like that. Maybe. You know what? I'm just going to add the whole thing. Why not? And then I'm just going to fill this with water. To 2½ cups, which is right there. Chicken stock. I cook every day. I used to do this professionally. How do I feel about Szechuan sauce? I gotta be honest, I've never had it. Oh, camera froze. Let's see. Hang on. pause champ. I love it. That's hilarious. All right, I don't know why it froze. Yeah. Hang on, let's see here. Let's try restarting it. I don't know what's going on, y'all. I did go to cooking school. I have a bachelor's. There we go. We're up and running again. I have a bachelor's degree in culinary arts. Excuse me. I went to New England Culinary Institute. I cooked for well over a decade. And thankfully, with what's going on now in the world, I'm kind of glad I'm not in the kitchens anymore. But I still love it. I do it every day. And yeah, so this is kind of, I don't do it professionally anymore, which I miss terribly. So this is kind of my outlet, if you would. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to deglaze with the chicken stock. Actually, hang on. Before we deglaze with the chicken stock, my recipe's wrong here. I don't like it. We're going to add the rice and we're going to let it cook for just a second. Now there is some liquid in here, so it might not be necessary, but it's a traditional French method, and you know the Cajuns are part French, so this is kind of what you do. So we're just going to cook the rice here for just a second. Going to let it cook till it absorbs the tomato just a little bit, and you know hopefully we get a little bit of you know just cooking on it. You know that's the whole point. We want to, again, it's all about depth of flavor. So we're just going to let that cook for just a second. And no, I'm not too worried about it getting starchy or anything by doing this. That shouldn't really happen. So yeah, so we're on like medium low. I'm just gonna let it go for a second. I know it's hard to be patient, but that's why I drink beer. Something I couldn't do in kitchens. Well, we did, but we shouldn't. It's like a damn pirate ship in those places, I'll tell you what. My opinion on Ratatouille, I thought that was a fantastic movie. I love Patton Oswalt. He is a GOAT, without question. They used Thomas Keller as their, what's it called? Consultant, thank you. They used Thomas Keller as a consultant, which was one of the best chefs in the world. They nailed so much of the reality of kitchens. The fact that women get treated like garbage in kitchens is still true to this day, which is absolutely disgusting. But it is a reality. I love that movie. I think it's fantastic. Yes, exactly. Okay, so all right, what just happened here, the rice absorbed most of the liquid from the excuse me, I'm losing my train of thought, from the tomatoes, and we're starting to hear, you can hear the sound change, and you hear more of a searing and a sizzle as it cooks, and that's exactly what I wanted. So now we're there. Now we're going to add the chicken stock, and anything that's stuck to the bottom, we're going to make sure we scrape that off. We're also going to scrape all the rice along the side into the pot. All right, so we're good here. And this is, we're almost done. So now what we're going to do, we're going to add the rest of our, you know, bastardized trinity. So that's all in there now. I'm going to stir that in. I'm going to season with more Cajun seasoning. You want to be careful at this point because this stuff can get real spicy. And now we're going to add our shrimp. Oh, and one last thing, we're going to add some bay leaves. I forgot that. We're going to add 2 bay leaves. There we go. 2 bay leaves. All right, we're going to bring this to a quick simmer here. So I'm going to turn it on high. This is just going to make it go a little bit faster in the oven. You know, the oven's not as hot as the stove. With that, however, I want to make sure I don't overcook this, or burn the bottom, I should say. And then something very important when you're cooking, you have to make sure that you're tasting your liquid. So if this doesn't taste right, it's going to be under-seasoned. And while we can season it at the end, it's going to be a different kind of seasoning. It's not going to taste correct. You know what I mean? It's going to taste like honestly, like you fucked it up and you fixed it. So we want to make sure that we do it perfect from the beginning. So if this was how it is without rice in it, it'd be perfectly seasoned. However, because it has rice, you want to season it almost until it's salty. Almost. Not until it's salty, almost until it's salty. And I know that's a very hard distinction, and frankly, you can't really learn that without somebody showing you. That's how I had to do it. But you'll get there. I mean, maybe one day you can stumble across it. So I'm adding this. This does have salt in it. It's not too spicy, so I want to add a little bit of this. However, I also want to be careful because the spice in this is going to bloom and it's going to become more potent. So just like I want to make sure that it's just a little bit too salty, I want to make sure it's just a little bit not quite as spicy as I want it. That's perfect. It's almost salty. It's got a nice kick to it. Again, the rice is going to tone that down a little bit. And that's that. So we're just going to let this come to a simmer, and then we're going to throw it in the oven. For actually portraying what is like to be shown. Okay, one of my favorite shows about the real life of a cook. There's a couple different ones. I love Kitchen Confidential. It had, oh shoot, what's his name? The guy from Hangover. Yes, Bradley Cooper. He was the lead in it. It only lasted one season. It was based off of Anthony Bourdain's book. They nailed it. I love that show. Again, one season. It was definitely over the top, as it has to be. I mean, you know, kitchens aren't really that entertaining. That's a fantastic show. And then there was another one, I think it was called Whites. It was a British show about a hotel and the brigade there. And it did a really good job of capturing the ridiculousness of kitchens. Yeah, it was, that was a great show as well. For games, there was this one game way back in the day. I don't remember. I think it was called Restaurant Empire. And it was kind of like a Sims of restaurants. And that was super fun. And it was somewhat realistic. I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's not really going to be realistic. Because if you haven't spent a day, like, if you haven't gone home crying from a kitchen, you haven't worked in a restaurant correctly. Like, you should have so much passion and have such a terrifying chef that you want to appease so badly that he breaks you down to bare nerves after 80 hours of working with him. And that's the reality of working in a kitchen. And yeah, it's amazing. I love it. But it's a hard life, I'll tell you what. All right, so we're simmering now. We got a little bit of stickage to the bottom, which is fantastic, because with jambalaya, you do want just a little bit of stickage. You want it to brown, the rice to brown just a touch, which is why we use a cast iron pot like this, so that it holds the heat and gets that, like, almost like if you ever had bibimbap from like a Korean place, you want that kinda. We definitely don't want it burned. We don't want it too crispy, but we do want that little texture-y thing. So we're going to throw this in the oven. It's going to take half hour to an hour. We'll see. I'd say 3 comp games, and then you're done.